Welcome to the 9th episode of Ahargana. I'm back after a very long break, almost a 3-month break, and so you can think of this as season 2 of Ahargana. I'm standing here in the Western Ghats, specifically in Charmadi Ghats, and this point is known as Devramane viewpoint. I could drive my car practically almost up to this point. It was just a 15-minute walk to get to where I am, and you can see, I don't know, I mean, it's not very clear. I don't think it will get any further clearer, but it's a beautiful deep valley behind me, and I'm up on an elevation. It's early in the morning. It's about 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. The sun is just coming up. There is a strong breeze blowing and it's quite chilly. Maybe in an hour's time it won't be so chill. It'll get warmer. But I wanted to catch early in the morning because once the sun really comes up, then there is a lot of haze on the ground. But now there is a lot of haze and mist on the ground. But it's a beautiful place to be in. I should have dressed a little bit warmer though. And if you come here to Devramane viewpoint, be sure to dress a little bit warmer if you come early in the morning. If you come at noon, then it'll be blazing hot. The weather changes a lot here. It all depends on that sun out there. But that is the topic of the second season of Ahargana, right? Sauramana calendar. We have already finished Chandramana, and this season is going to be all about Sauramana calendar of the Hindu calendar. But before I get to Sauramana proper, I will take this one episode to talk about the specific topic of Nakshatra. So what is a nakshatra? The term nakshatra has 4 meanings. The first meaning is the straightforward one, which is, it means a star. So Chitra Nakshatra or Revati Nakshatra or Swati Nakshatra, we can see them in the sky. It's a star, nakshatra. The second meaning is a collection of stars. The English term for that is asterism. So it's a collection of stars, and the idea is you draw imaginary lines connecting those stars to make up some figures in your mind. So that is the second meaning of nakshatra, and these 2 meanings are connected in the sense that, so if there is something called Bharani Nakshatra, it's either a single star or it is a collection of stars of which Bharani is one of them. But the entire collection is also called Bharani Nakshatra. So both the star as well as the asterism of which it is a part are both called nakshatra. So based on context, you must understand which one is being referred to. The next 2 meanings are the astronomical and calendric meanings of nakshatra. So what is the astronomical meaning of nakshatra? So you know there is the ecliptic. That is the path the sun takes to go around the earth in 365 days in a geocentric model. Now imagine if this ecliptic is divided into 27 equal segments. Each segment is called a nakshatra. Now if you do the arithmetic, 360 degrees make up a circle. If you divide it into 27 equal parts, then each part will be 13 degrees 20 minutes. And each 13 degree 20 minute segment is called a nakshatra. Ashwini, Bharani, etc., etc. That is the astronomical meaning of the term nakshatra. And finally, I will come to the calendric meaning of nakshatra. Calendar is all about time, right? So the calendric meaning is the time taken by the moon to traverse one nakshatra segment. That time taken is also a nakshatra. And this calendric meaning of the time taken by the moon to traverse through one nakshatra segment is what is very extensively used in Hindu astrology. For example, if a baby is born during that time period, then the Janma Nakshatra of that baby will be that nakshatra. For example, my Janma Nakshatra is Bharani. That only means that when I was born, the moon was somewhere in that segment which makes up Bharani. That means it was Ashwini. Bharani is the second nakshatra. So the moon was somewhere between 13 degrees 20 minutes to 26 degrees 40 minutes. Moon was there in that segment of Bharani, and hence my Janma Nakshatra is Bharani. So these are the four meanings of the term nakshatra: a single star, a collection of stars, then you have the astronomical, the segments, the 13 degrees 20-second segments, and finally the time taken by moon, Chandra, to traverse a segment. All of these are meanings of this term nakshatra. Now you may ask, where did this 27 come from? We have already seen a similar question in Chandramana. Tithi, 30, why 30 tithis? Now the same question I will ask again, why 27 nakshatras? Why not again 30 nakshatras, or 10 or 15? Why 27? Once again, this has to do with orbital periods. If you take the moon, it traverses, it starts from some point, it goes a full orbit around the earth, comes back to that same point, it takes 27.3 days. So approximately a nakshatra is the distance which the moon will traverse in roughly a 24-hour period. So if a tithi was considered as a lunar day, even a nakshatra can be considered a lunar day. But I have already told you my opinion of nakshatra, of the term lunar day. For me, a day, the sun has to rise. If the sun doesn't rise, it's not a day. So a nakshatra is a nakshatra. It is approximately the duration, the time. The calendaric definition of nakshatra will be close to, in the ballpark of 24 hours. So that is where the 27 comes from, one orbit of the moon. If you remember Tithi, that was 29.5 days, but that was from one Amavasya to the next Amavasya, or from one Purnima to the next Purnima. This is different. This is, moon starts from here, it goes one full circle, comes back here, 27.3 days, one orbit. Then the second point I would like to point out is, so I said moon starts from here, goes one circle, comes back here. Where is this here? What is this starting point? This question also I have asked before. When it comes to the Chandramasa, what is the starting point? A circle is a closed loop, it has no beginning, no end. So where is the starting point? At that time we said Amavasya is the starting point, Purnima is the starting point. Now this starting point is a fixed starting point. This is a big difference between Tithi and Nakshatra. This starting point, moon starts from here and comes back here, is fixed at 180 degrees opposite of Chitra Nakshatra. And this approach is called Chitrapaksha. So you have Chitra Nakshatra, which is a bright star in the sky, and you come 180 degrees opposite of that, and this is the starting point of the Hindu zodiac. So in fact, this is not just the starting point of the Nakshatra Mandala, this is the starting point of the Rashi Mandala also. I will come to Rashis in a future episode. So this fixed point which I am talking about is referred to as Meshadi, the beginning of Mesha. It could be Ashvinadi also, but that term is not there, I just coined it. Meshadi is the term, and the moon starts from Meshadi, goes one full circle, comes back to Meshadi, and that takes 27.3 days, and that's why 27 nakshatras are defined, 27 segments are defined. So this is all about nakshatra, and before I go to the animation, some concluding remarks. As you can observe from what I have been saying, in the definition of nakshatra, the moon makes an appearance. The reason is as follows. First of all, the astronomical definition of nakshatra is the only one which is found in Surya Siddhanta. Surya Siddhanta does not include nakshatra in Chandramana, it keeps nakshatras separate. It's not one of the manas at all. In fact, there is a separate section in Surya Siddhanta which describes nakshatra, the 27 nakshatras in great detail, the position, the starting points, etc., in great detail. And it stops there. There is no mention of the moon in that. But when I come to the calendric definition, I brought the moon in because it is the time the moon takes to traverse one segment. I don't know where that definition comes from. It's not in the Surya Siddhanta, but that is the definition which is practiced today in India. In our Panchangas, you will see nakshatra times demarcated, and that times is based on the moon's movement traversing that segment. So, though it is not part of Chandramana, the moon plays an important part in the calendric definition of nakshatra. So, keep that in mind. And also, why 27 nakshatras? Because of the moon. Because the moon starts here, makes one orbit, comes back, and hence there are 27 segments. Surya Siddhanta does not mention this also. It just says there are 27 segments, and it goes on to explain each segment in great detail. But the moon plays a critical part in nakshatra, though it is not part of Chandramana officially. So now I am going to roll the animation where all of these ideas, at least the astronomical and the calendric ideas, will be explicitly described in the animation. So I am going to roll the animation now. Take a look.
Okay, let's get started. In this animation, we are going to see all about the term nakshatra. The term nakshatra has multiple meanings. I will cover all of them in this episode. It's likely to be a somewhat long episode, but please stay with me. Now, what you see in front of you is the very familiar ecliptic. That is the path the sun takes to go around the earth in 365 days in a geocentric model. Normally, only half of this path will be visible to us in the sky above us. The rest will be below us, below our feet. But since this is stellarium, I am able to remove the earth, so you can see the entire ecliptic on the screen. Now, the first meaning of the term nakshatra, which I am going to take up, is that of an astronomical meaning. So I am going to roll the animation. Take a look. So the first point which I am illustrating is that there are two stars, Chitra and Revati, and right opposite to Chitra, 180 degrees from Chitra, I am marking off a point on the ecliptic, and I am calling that Meshadi. Mesha Adi, that means that is the beginning of Mesha. In essence, I am marking off a new 0 point on the ecliptic. So here you see a 0 degrees point. This is the Western astronomical 0 degree point. It's the position where the sun will be on the vernal equinox. I will give more detailed explanation of this in a separate episode, so don't worry too much about it. But what I am marking off is a new point here, which I am going to treat as the 0 point as far as Hindu astronomy is concerned. And this point I am naming it as Meshadi, beginning of Mesha. Now Mesha is actually a Rashi, which I will talk about later. But effectively, this is the 0 degree point on the ecliptic as far as Hindu astronomy is concerned. And I'm going to talk about a lot of angular measurements, but all the angles I'm going to talk about in this animation are going to be measured from here, from Meshadi, not from the vernal equinox. And any measurement which is made from Meshadi is referred to as a Nirayana measurement, as opposed to any measurement made from this 0 degrees, which is called a Sayana measurement. Again, don't worry about these terms. I will have a separate episode later to get more into the details. Now let's go into the definition of nakshatra, the astronomical definition. The astronomical definition is that this ecliptic is divided into 27 equal parts, and each part is known as a nakshatra. So I will illustrate that by continuing the animation, and you see the first segment of the 27 has been marked off, and this segment is known as Ashwini Nakshatra. And the Nirayana longitude, it starts at this 0 degrees, which is Meshadi, and goes on for 13 degrees 20 minutes. It's simple arithmetic, 360 divided by 27. This segment is known as Ashwini Nakshatra. The next, starting from here for another 13 degree 20 minutes, is Bharani Nakshatra, this segment. So it starts at 13 degree 20 minutes and goes on till 26 degrees 40 minutes. So you can think of this whole thing as a pizza, and there are 27 slices. I have shown 2 slices right now, very thin slices, and each slice is effectively just 13 degrees 20 minutes. Thin slices. So the next slice starting from here is going to be Kritika Nakshatra, and that starts from 26 degrees 40 minutes to 40 degrees. And this continues like this. So the next one which comes up is Rohini Nakshatra, this segment, 40 degrees to 53 degrees 20 minutes. So each slice of the pizza, each slice of the ecliptic is 13 degrees 20 minutes. The next one starting here is Mrigashiras Nakshatra, 53 degrees 20 minutes to 66 degree 40 minutes. And this goes on and on and on. So I'm going to run this animation continuously. This is Ardra Nakshatra. This is Punarvasu Nakshatra. Next comes Pushya Nakshatra. Next is Ashlesha Nakshatra, Magha Nakshatra, Purva Falguni Nakshatra, Uttara Falguni Nakshatra, Hasta Nakshatra, and the next one obviously is Chitra Nakshatra. That's where the star Chitra is. Swati Nakshatra, Vishakha Nakshatra, Anuradha Nakshatra, Jyeshta Nakshatra, Moola Nakshatra, Purva Ashada Nakshatra, Uttara Ashada Nakshatra, Shravana Nakshatra, Dhanishta Nakshatra, Shatabisha Nakshatra, Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, and finally Revati Nakshatra. So these are the 27 nakshatras that make up the Nakshatra Mandala, and that is the definition, the astronomical definition. Now, if I stop here, you would be rather disappointed, because what is this? This is just a circle with 27 slices, and that is nakshatra. So I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to continue further from this point. In the next segment of this animation, I'm going to explain to you where these names of the nakshatras are coming from. So let me continue rolling the animation. You see, I have now brought the stars onto the screen. So far I had suppressed all the stars. And you know very well that the Sanskrit term for star is nakshatra. But you can also see here something called Ashwini, which is a small red line. Now that red line is not a single nakshatra, but it is actually 2 nakshatras. So let me zoom in on Ashwini, and you can see that there are 2 nakshatras there. So this combination of multiple nakshatras is referred to as an asterism. Asterism is nothing but a collection of stars. And out of these 2 nakshatras, one has been labeled as Ashwini. Now what that means is that one nakshatra which has been labeled as Ashwini is known as the yogatara of this asterism. So here is a nakshatra asterism called Ashwini, of which here is a single star, yogatara, also called Ashwini. So 2 meanings of the word nakshatra. One is the asterism, And second is a star, a single star, which is the yogatara, which means the main star of this asterism. Now let me zoom back. So if you look at the position of Ashwini, you can clearly see that it is very close to this segment. So the name of this asterism has been applied to this segment. So this segment is called Ashwini because the star asterism Ashwini is right there, close to the segment. It identifies this segment. This is how the name of the segment is being derived. So let me proceed further. Next one is Bharani. Here is the Bharani Nakshatra asterism. And once again, let me zoom in onto Bharani. This is 3 stars. And out of these 3 stars, this one is the yogatara and is also labeled as Bharani. And this is very close to this segment. Not exactly very close. I mean, it's not on the ecliptic. So if you come inside the circle, this is north of the ecliptic. So you can see that this is well significantly to the north of the ecliptic, but you can make out that it is still in this segment. So this name is applied to this segment. So this is Bharani Nakshatra. This is Bharani Nakshatra, the asterism. This is Bharani Nakshatra, the segment. And out of this asterism, one star is identified as the yogatara, and that star is also named Bharani Nakshatra. Proceeding further, here is Kritika. Very clearly you can see this segment is Kritika. Let me zoom into that. Plenty of stars here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars are connected by this line. Oh, there is the 8th one here. And out of which this one has been picked as the yogatara and it's been labeled as Kritika Nakshatra. And this entire asterism is close to this segment, and hence this segment is Kritika Nakshatra. That's how the name is coming. Proceeding to the next one, here is Rohini. That's a single star. It's a very bright star. The Western name, or rather the Arabic name for this, is Al-Debran. Zooming in, it's shown as a single star. There are some sources which say Rohini is multiple stars, but Stellarium shows it as a single star. So this segment is Rohini. Next one is Mrigashiras, is significantly to the south of the ecliptic. Anything outside is south. Significantly to the south, but you can still make out this is the segment which gets its name from Mrigashiras. And this also has multiple stars, 3 stars out of which this is the yogatara, Mrigashiras. The next one is Ardra, and it is a single star. It is here, and you can see it's a little bit problematic because it's falling inside Mrigashiras. So if I draw a line from the center of the view, it's falling inside Mrigashiras, but it is actually used to identify this segment. And this kind of thing happens quite often, as you will see as we proceed further. Not always is the asterism clearly located in the segment. Sometimes it's like this, a little bit on the border, on the edge. Sometimes it's completely off also. I will show you later. Proceeding to the next one, Punarvasu, 2 stars. It's here. I'm not going to zoom in any longer. You get the idea what they will look like. So these are all very, very small asterisms, just 2 stars, 1 star, 3 star. Kritika was the one which had 8 stars. So this is Punarvasu Nakshatra segment because of this asterism. Here is Pushya, the red line is here. So clearly this one is bang on the ecliptic. Neither north nor south. You can see it's intersecting the ecliptic there. So this segment is Pushya Nakshatra. Then here is Ashlesha. Again, it's on this edge. So this entire segment is called Ashlesha Nakshatra. It's getting its name from that. Magha, right on the ecliptic. So this segment is Magha Nakshatra. Now comes the Falguni Nakshatra, and this is interesting because this is split into 2 parts. Purva Falguni, and let me proceed further, Uttara Falguni. Now, the idea is that there is actually a single asterism called Falguni, and that is 4 stars. and it looks like two lines parallel to each other, but it doesn't fit in a single segment. So what they did was they took half of it, called it Purva Falguni, took the other half of it, called it Uttara Falguni. Now why Purva and Uttara? What do those words mean? Purva means the former, the one which comes first, and Uttara means the latter, the one which comes later, the one which succeeds. And why? Why does this come first and this come later? Because if you remember from all the animations you have seen so far, the sun, moon and all the planets revolve in this direction. I have set it up like that in all the animations. So any planet which comes, sun, moon, Mars, whichever it may be, first it will cross this Purva Falguni segment and then it will cross the Uttara Falguni segment. That's why this is former and latter. Purva and Uttara. You will see this again 2 more times as we proceed forward. Then comes Hasta Nakshatra, so that is this segment. Then you come to Chitra Nakshatra, that is this segment. And Swati Nakshatra is so far to the north, and that is used to identify this segment. Though it's actually falling inside Chitra Nakshatra, I said Ardra was problematic, Swati is very problematic. But it is used to identify this segment. Then we come to Vishaka Nakshatra, no problem, it's right on the segment. Anuradha Nakshatra, that's also on the segment. One of the stars, that line is actually cutting the segment there. Jyeshta Nakshatra on the border, but this star comes inside this segment. So this is Jyeshta Nakshatra, this segment. Mula Nakshatra, mostly it looks like in this segment, but no, this is Jyeshta. So this is Mula Nakshatra. A little bit of it is coming into this segment. Purva Ashada, it is well inside Mula, but it is what it is. This is used to name this segment. This is Purva Ashada. And just like I said before, there is a Uttara also. And Uttara Ashada is this segment where you see the 300 degrees. So these are the ones which are very, very, very problematic. You cannot use these two to actually aim a telescope and identify the segment. It will not work. But similar to Purva Falguni and Uttara Falguni, here you have Purva Ashada and Uttara Ashada. Two asterisms which are too big to fit in one segment. They are split into two, one called Purva, the other called Uttara. But this is Purva Ashada segment and this is Uttara Ashada segment. Then we come to Shravana, that is this, very far to the north, but it falls within this segment. Dhanishta Nakshatra, even further to the north, but this is the Dhanishta segment. Shatabhisha Nakshatra is this small dot you see here. I'm not even sure if you can see it, but this is Shatabhisha Nakshatra segment. Then comes Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada. Again, two parallel lines, split, one asterism split into two parts. So here is Purva Falguni, Uttara Falguni, Purva Ashada, Uttara Ashada, Purva Bhadrapada, Uttara Bhadrapada. So these are the two segments. This is Purva Bhadrapada, this is Uttara Bhadrapada. And finally, this is Revati, this single star. So this is where the asterisms are getting all their names from. Very few of them are actually on the ecliptic. Many are to the north of the ecliptic, some are to the south of the ecliptic. Some don't even fall within the segment but fall further away, but still they are used to name those segments. So what scholars are speculating is that maybe first the stars and asterisms were named, and later on somebody had the idea, let's split the ecliptic into 27 parts. Then what names do we give to those 27 parts? Let's use the names of the asterisms. And then they ended up doing some force fitting, like Uttara Ashada is actually here, Purva Ashada is this segment. Doesn't fit exactly, but that's how they have been named. So now you have seen three definitions of the term nakshatra. One is the astronomical definition, and now we have seen this is also astronomical, but this is star and asterism. So segment, star, asterism, three definitions we have already covered, and we will now go into the final part of this animation, which is the calendric definition of the term asterism. But before I go on to the calendric term, let me take a pause here and show you what is the point in dividing the ecliptic into 27 segments. Why bother? What this effectively becomes is that this acts like a coordinate system. What does that mean? That means, okay, so you look, I turned on the planets now. So you can see here is Saturn, right? So instead of saying Saturn is somewhere around maybe 325 degrees. So this is 300 degrees in the Western system and this is 330 degrees. So Saturn looks like it's in 325 degrees. Instead of saying that, in the Hindu system, I can say Saturn is in Dhanishta. Saturn is in Dhanishta Nakshatra. That means immediately Saturn is in this segment. It's a shortcut. Instead of mentioning numbers, degrees, etc., if I say Saturn is in Dhanishta Nakshatra, then you know Saturn is somewhere in this segment. It's not accurate, but it is accurate to an extent of 13 degrees 20 minutes. It's somewhere in this segment. Now, if you want further accuracy, our ancestors further divided each nakshatra into 4 padas, 4 equal divisions called padas. So first pada, second pada, third pada, and fourth pada. So I could now say Saturn is in the Dhanishta Nakshatra, second pada. I'm just doing it visually, I'm not calculating, but then you realize, okay, it must be in this area. And then you can further say second nakshatra, Dhanishta Nakshatra, third pada, second pada, whatever it may be. And inside that pada, it's at 1 degree, 1.5 degrees, etc. That will make it absolutely precise. Right? Same way, here is Jupiter, and I can say Jupiter is in Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra. So that means Jupiter is somewhere here. Purva Bhadrapada, third pada. And within Purva Bhadrapada, third pada, it is in 1 degree 10 minutes. And that will make it precise. So instead of measuring degrees from a 0 point, you just name a segment and the pada within the segment, you have pretty much placed any heavenly body in its appropriate position close to the ecliptic. It will work beautifully for all the planets which are very close to the ecliptic all the time. So this is the astronomical purpose of dividing the ecliptic into 27 segments, to serve as a convenient coordinate system to locate the heavenly bodies. Now let me move on to the final segment of this animation. Let me get rid of the planets. Now, so far you may not have observed it, but I will point it out to you now. I have not made any references to time. I'm not even showing the usual time window which I show on the top left hand side of the screen. I only spoke about segments of the ecliptic. I spoke about the position of the various stars and asterisms, nothing about time. So this final segment of this animation is all about the time meaning, the calendric meaning of the term nakshatra. So to explain this calendric meaning, I have to call upon a very familiar Hindu tradition. There is a story in our tradition which says that Chandra, moon, has 27 wives. and that he spends one day with each wife in sequence in a month. So in this final segment of the animation, I am going to show you Chandra visiting his 27 wives. Take a look. So let me roll the animation. So I got rid of the stars and I brought in the planets, specifically Chandra. I'm going to turn on the calendar window, the time window also. So we are on April 12th at 11:41 hours, and Chandra is positioned exactly at Meshadi. And I'm saying that Revati ends here because this is a circle. So the starting point is Chandra has finished visiting Revati and he is exiting Revati. So let me roll the animation now, and you will see that Chandra is now visiting Ashwini. There, Chandra is visiting Ashwini. And there, he is finished visiting Ashwini. Ashwini ends on April 13th at 15:54 hours. So if I stay with the story, if I stay with the Hindu tradition, so during this period between April 12th, 11:41 to April 13th, 15:54, Chandra was visiting Ashwini. That means Chandra was in Ashwini's house. Yeah. But then why just say a house? House looks like very ordinary. So we will call it Chandra is visiting Ashwini's mansion. Yeah. So that is a lunar mansion. So you have to imagine that this segment here has now become a mansion, a big palace, because hey, this is a nakshatra, this is a heavenly thing, so it can't be a house, it's a mansion. So that's where the term lunar mansions are coming from. And you saw Chandra visiting Ashwini for the duration of 24 hours and a little bit more, because 11:41 on April 12th, he started visiting Ashwini. And by 11:41 April 13th, 24 hours would have ended, but he stayed there until 15:54. So another 3-4 hours he stayed there. So closer to 28 hours, Chandra was visiting Ashwini. So this entire period, this time period between these two date stamps I am showing you here, that time period is known as Ashwini Nakshatra. So that is the calendric definition of Ashwini Nakshatra. Now, the Surya Siddhanta does not define this calendric definition. Surya Siddhanta only talks about the 27 divisions and the asterisms. I am not sure where this calendric definition source lies, but this is what we practice today. This is what Hindus practice. And most importantly, because Chandra was visiting Ashwini during that period, all babies born on earth, Hindu babies born on earth, are attributed to the care of Ashwini Nakshatra. So Ashwini Nakshatra will become the Janma Nakshatra of any baby which is born in that time period, because Chandra was visiting Ashwini at that time. So Ashwini has to take care of all these babies. Ashwini is like the fairy godmother you can think of all the babies who are born in that time frame. So this is the calendric definition of the term Janma Nakshatra. So let me proceed forward. Chandra has finished visiting Ashwini. Now he is visiting Bharani. And there he has finished visiting Bharani. So that is Bharani ends on April 14th, 1939 hours. Again, a little bit more than 24 hours. So this entire time period between April 13, 1554 to April 14, 1939 is known as Bharani Nakshatra. And any baby born in that time will be told your Janma Nakshatra is Bharani. Proceeding further, Chandra is visiting Kritika Nakshatra now, and there Kritika ends at April 15th, 2243. Continuing further, Chandra is visiting Rohini now. And there Rohini Nakshatra ends at April 17th, 01:18 hours. And this goes on and on and on. Chandra leaves one nakshatra, enters the next nakshatra. You can think of it as row houses where you exit one door, you have entered the next house, next mansion, not a house. So there Mrigashiras ends, and Chandra is now visiting Ardra. And Ardra ends on April 19th, 05:26 hours. Chandra is visiting Punarvasu. Punarvasu ends April 20th, 06:55 hours. Now Chandra is visiting Pushya Nakshatra. And proceeding further, Chandra is visiting Ashlesha Nakshatra. And now, let me point out something to you. So Chandra is now visiting Magha Nakshatra. And now you see, Ashlesha ended at April 22nd, 8:19. Magha ends at April 23rd, 8:09. So now the duration is less than 24 hours. So here the duration was more than 24 hours. Now it started becoming less than 24 hours. But in general, you will find the period, the duration of a nakshatra is approximately 24 hours, give or take a couple of hours. Proceeding further, Purva Falguni Nakshatra. There it ends. Next, Uttara Falguni Nakshatra. Ends at April 25th, 05:58 hours. Hasta Nakshatra. Ends at April 26th, 03:25 hours. And everywhere you can see that the position where Chandra stopped is right on that division of the ecliptic, the plus symbol which I have already marked. So let me continue with the other nakshatras. Now it's much less than 24 hours per nakshatra. Now we are at Anuradha. Chandra is visiting Anuradha and Jyeshtha, Moola, Purva Ashada, Uttara Ashada, Shravana, Dhanishta, and Dhanishta ends at May 5th, 11:06. Shatabisha, May 6th, 12:37. Purva Bhadrapada ends at May 7th, 14:40. Now we are again back to more than 24 hours. Uttara Bhadrapada ends at May 8th, 16:59. And finally, Revati ends, and you can see we came back right bang on to the starting point. And if you compare these two dates, we started this whole circle on April 12th, 11:41 and ended at May 9th, 1925. So you would see that that is 28 days. But if you actually look at the number of sunrises, this sunrise doesn't count because it's already 11:41. There are actually 27 sunrises and a little bit more time. So that means this one revolution takes 27 days, and that's exactly this. The sidereal orbital period of the moon is 27.3 days, and it's because of that that the ecliptic is divided into 27 parts. It's the distance which the moon travels in approximately 24 hours, or rather give or take a couple of hours this side, that side, 20 hours, 24 hours, 26 hours, etc., etc. So this is the calendaric definition of the term nakshatra. So that pretty much brings me to the end of this animation. And I'm going to illustrate one more thing about Janma Nakshatra to you. Not one more thing. I'm going to illustrate Janma Nakshatra to you by demonstrating with my own birthday. So my Janma Nakshatra is Bharani. So I'm going to put my birthday here. That is 1962, July 25th. And I was born not in the evening, but in the morning at 6 a.m. And see where the moon is. Moon is in Bharani Nakshatra. So Bharani ends, we forget the date. But this segment is Bharani, right? And there is the moon in the Bharani segment. And that is why my Janma Nakshatra is Bharani Nakshatra. One more final observation. All the times that you see here, I fixed these times based on the ephemeris data I obtained from NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. NASA JPL has a website called Horizons. It's an ephemeris application, and I used that to derive this data. And if you compare this data with Drik Panchang, you will see a difference. Drik Panchang is approximately an hour and a half to 2 hours different from the timestamps I have shown you. And I did that because when I used the NASA ephemeris, I was able to bring Revati back to exactly to the starting point. When I used Drik Panchang, I could not. If I use Drik Panchang dates, then when at the end of one full circle, Revati stopped slightly short, maybe somewhere here, instead of coming back to the exact starting point. So what I'm effectively saying is your Drik Panchang calculations probably are not as accurate as NASA JPL. But that should not be surprising because Drik Panchang, if I go by the name, it's using algorithms which were defined somewhere around 1400 AD by Parameshwaran Nambudri in a text called Drik Ganita. So for algorithms which are about 600 years old, if they are off by just 1.5 hours compared to NASA, I think that's pretty good. I would say that's excellent. So that brings me to the end of this rather long episode. It was long, but I hope you found it informative. So once again, thank you very much for staying with me through this long episode. And thank you very much for watching.
So that was all about nakshatra. Very important concept in Hindu astrology, but fairly straightforward astronomical and calendric definitions. So that brings me to the end of this episode. In the next episode, I will get into Sauramana proper. Now Sauramana is predominantly centered around a solar year, a Sauravarsha, and that's 365 days. That's the same as in the Christian calendar. It's the time taken by the sun to go around the earth one full orbit in a geocentric model. But the other calendric elements in Sauramana are derived by dividing this Sauravarsha into multiple smaller pieces. For example, there are two parts. The Sauravarsha is divided into two halves, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Then there is something lesser known, again two other parts called Devayana and Pitrayana. And that's not used today, but for one simple fact that it leads us to the definition of Pitrupaksha. And then there are 6 divisions of the Sauravarsha, and those are the Ritus, the seasons. In my opinion, the Ritus are a little bit problematic, but when I come to that episode where I explain Ritus, I will tell you why I consider them to be problematic. And finally, there are the 12 divisions, which are the Rashis, the Rashi Mandala. So I will go into explanation of all of these in the coming episodes. And also there is another concept of something called Ayanamsha. Many people think it's an extremely complex concept, but it is not really all that complex. And I will explain Ayanamsha also to you. In fact, I am thinking maybe I should start with the definition of Ayanamsha and then go into the others. I still haven't decided on that. But whatever it may be, this is the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for staying with me and coming on to the second season of Ahargana. And I hope to see you again in the next episode. Before now and the next episode, if you like this episode, please forward this link to all your friends and relatives so that everybody starts seeing this and starts understanding our Hindu calendar. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care and bye-bye.